When I was first learning how to play classical music, I would pull up some sheet music. I'd write in any of the notes that I was unfamiliar with or still struggling with, and I would go ahead and memorize the string of notes and download that into my hands as muscle memory. And so by the end of a practice session, I could do something like this. That method kind of worked. I could hear the music coming out of my own keys, and that was kind of what I wanted. Although that is not the best way of digesting a piece of music. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it took me years and years and years to learn about scales and the key of the music. C major, for example. This piece uses the C major scale. That's why it's called Prelude in C major. This is the first prelude of Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier. And then within that scale, we could form a few different chords. C major. Here's D minor 7, which is based off of the D minor triad. Here's G dominant 7, which is based off of the G major triad. These can then be played in different positions all over the keyboard through inversions. Each of these chords also has a relationship to each other. D minor 7 is the subdominant in the key of C major. This moves to the dominant chord in the key of C, and that dominant function really wants to resolve, wants to go back to home base, and wants to go back to the tonic. There is so much at play, and learning the intricacies and learning all the relationship between the notes is what really set me free. That learning all these different rules and how things work together, that was the catalyst for freeing up my hands and thinking of music a lot differently. I could play that same prelude and have fun with it. Make my own arrangements. So in the next 30 minutes, I'd like to explain exactly what goes on through my mind and the process that I went through in order to be able to do something like that. So first, let's start with an analogy here. I use this same analogy in all my videos. A piece of music is like a house, and so all houses have a foundation. They have a frame. They have a bunch of rooms in them, and then in the rooms are furniture. How does this relate to music? Each piece of music is based off of a scale, and that's the foundation. In this case, we're going to be learning C major. Now we have that foundation, we can form a couple different chords. Let's do C major, and we'll do D minor. We'll turn that into a D minor 7. We're going to learn G major, we'll turn that into a G dominant 7. And so here are the rooms of the house. Now within those rooms, we can rearrange all the furniture. And the point of this is to showcase that each of these chords can be played in a different position. I can move the dining room table over here, and I can move it over here, and over here. You get the idea. It's not permanent. Now, stepping outside of this analogy for a moment, to explain the relationship between all the chords is a little bit different, and it's going to require a story, actually. In this story, we've built this house, and you're living in this house. You're having a cozy day, reading a book, doing whatever you want. You get the day off. It's yours. This is familiar. It's comfortable. It's what you know best. Okay. So now let's step outside the house and go for a walk. Go to the park. Go a couple blocks down the streets and get some fresh air. Do something new, create some movement. And now you run into an unfamiliar part of town. You wander off, and there's some tension here, some dissonance that wants to, it creates like a sense of tension that wants to bring you back home. And so walk all the way back, and you're back in, what you know as, what you know best, what's familiar. So those three scenes of being at home, going for a walk in the park, and then being in an unfamiliar part of town, those go over, or those display consonance, movement, dissonance, and resolution back to consonance. And those are the three roles that these chords, that we will apply to these chords. Okay, let's first start with, let's go all the way back to the very beginning. We need to lay out the foundation of this home. All right, so imagine that, I'm gonna draw a little picture here. Imagine we've got some rocky ground. It's got hills, it's got it's uneven land, and so we want to create a foundation for this house that's going to be even and super solid. I'm going to lay down some big blocks. These are big concrete blocks that are going to go and level out this surface area all the way up here, so that way the house can be even. As you can see, there are all a bunch of different shapes, but there's two primary shapes, which is the big blocks like this, and there's small blocks. Okay, what are the big blocks and what are the small blocks? How do those relate to music? So there are whole steps and half steps. The smaller step is the half step, and the bigger step is the whole step. When I play the C major scale, I'm just stepping up the keyboard. But some of those steps are greater than others, or smaller than others. So the half step is what we'll start with. The half step is two notes that are directly next to each other. So I'll write next to each other. And this applies to all keys, every single one of the 88 keys on the keyboard. A half step up from C is C sharp. A half step down from C is B. A half step down from B is B flat. A half step down from B flat is A. You get the idea. Any note that is directly adjacent to one another is a half step from one another. Now let's talk about the whole step. What do two halves make? They make a whole. So a whole step is equivalent to two half steps. If I go up two half steps from C, 1, 2, move to D. Up a whole step from D is, let's figure that out. Half step, E. Whole steps, two half steps combined. All right, so we've got these two kinds of steps, small and large. What was the order for this foundation here? Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. This is the formula, and this is the set of steps required to form any major scale at all. So we're going to use C, for example, which is all the white keys. C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And yes, there is a C at the end, but that'll be the last half step there. So let's go ahead and follow that same formula. Here's C. Let's go up a whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B, and then a half step to C. That is the C major scale, and this is a pretty easy scale. This is the first scale that everybody learns. But if I took any other root at all, E flat, I could follow this same formula, and I'll end up with the E flat major scale. Here's E flat. A whole step up from E flat is F. Whole step to G. A half step to A flat. A whole step to B flat. Whole step to C. Whole step to D, and then a half step to E flat. This is the foundation. These are the notes that we will use to form the chords, and then extend those chords, and the same notes to invert all those chords. Okay, this is the foundation of the home. We've got a level ground here. Now it's time to build up a little house. Here's the roof. And within this house, we're going to have 3 different chords, or 3 different rooms. We're going to have C major. We're going to have D minor 7, although before we learn D minor 7, we are going to learn D minor. And we have a G dominant 7, and before we learn G dominant 7, we are going to learn G major. Okay, let's first start with C major. It's 3 notes. It's a triad. Triad means 3-note chord. Tri means 3, like tricycle, triangle, trifecta. Any tri word indicates 3. So that triad is C major, and it has a positive happy quality. We'll learn minor in a second. Minor chord is like sad. It's a bit more moody, and you can really hear the difference here. But we'll stick to major for now. What is the interval that makes this chord major? Why does it feel major? That's because it has a major third in it. A major third is an interval, or it's a particular distance from note to note. That major third exists between C and E. This is a major third, and it's 4 half steps. 4H, 4 half steps. Okay, let's count just to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it 4 half steps? Yes, it absolutely is. This is a major, this is a major third. And just like the scale, if we took any other note, what's E flat, for example, we'll take this note, and if we go up 4 half steps, we will form the major third. 1, 2, 3, 4. These intervals and distances remain constant, but the notes might change when we apply it to different things. Okay, so the interval, we also need to learn a new one, which is the perfect fifth. It might be tempting to think that, okay, if we just we can measure between C and E, and then we can just go ahead and measure between E and G after that. That would make the most sense, right? But actually, we are going to measure everything from C. We want to form a perfect fifth from C. We'll end up on G. How many half steps is that? That is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. C, E, and G form the C major triad. Major third and perfect fifth. C we'll call the root, because that is what all of these intervals are based off of. Root, third, and fifth. Okay, let's find, actually, well, to be more specific, major third, perfect fifth. Okay, let's find another root to use to form a new chord. Let's take G. We want a perfect, we want a major third, and we want a perfect fifth. What are those going to be? How do we find the major third? We go up 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. The interval between G and B is 4 half steps, so we can write that in. Let's find the perfect fifth from G. What's it going to be? It's going to be 7 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the G major triad. G, B, and D. We have our root, major third, and perfect fifth. Just like that, we have formed the C and G major triads. Okay, let's form another chord. It's going to be slightly different though. It is not going to be major. It is going to have a root. It's going to have a perfect fifth. But the middle note isn't going to be different because it's going to incorporate a different interval. So this stays the same. Perfect fifth stays the same. This is going to be a minor third. A minor third is 3 half steps, so it's just a little bit different. So if we took D and go up 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, we land on F. This is a minor third. The interval is slightly smaller than the major. So the root, minor third, and perfect fifth form all minor triads. And as you can hear, the quality and the emotions that it evokes is different. D minor. Okay, these are the 3 chords that we're going to be working with and build off of: C, D minor, and G. C major, D minor, G major. So we're going to then modify these 2 chords, D minor and G major. We're going to turn D minor into a D, oh, that looks like a B, as D minor 7. We're going to turn G into a G dominant 7, and that just looks like a G and a 7. How do we do that? What is a 7 chord, first of all? It's a triad with an additional interval called the 7th. We don't have to worry about C because C is going to stay C major. Let's first tackle G 7. And we want to form a G dominant 7. How do we form that chord? We need to look at the G major scale. In order to form the G major scale, we just go through the same set of whole steps and half steps. If you've found this video helpful, I strongly encourage you to check out pianowithpacha.com. Here I have a resource called Fundamentals that has every scale, every chord, and every inversion all in one place. Check it out. Here's G. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And I'll go ahead and write out the full scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Okay, we need to find the 7th scale degree because that is going to be the additional note for our 7 chord. It's going to be related to F sharp because take a look. G is the first note, A is the second note, B is the third note, C is the 4th note, D is the 5th note, E is the 6th, and F sharp is the 7th. However, in the G dominant 7 chord, we don't want the major 7. We don't want the 7 of the major scale. We want a minor 7. In order to make a major interval minor, we major, this should be a capital M, sorry. In order to make a major interval minor, we lower it by a half step. So I'll just draw a little arrow lower to make it minor. If I take this major interval, C and B, which we used to form the G major triad, and I made it minor, I just lower it by a half step. So if we want to take this 7th scale degree of G major, or of the G major scale, we need to lower that major 7 by a half step in order to make it a minor 7. Okay, so we can go ahead and take the G triad and add a note, F natural, not F sharp. This is a lowered 7 scale degree. It was a major 7, we're going to make it a minor 7. And the amount of intervals, or the amount of half steps between G and F is 10. Here's G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We keep the triad and we just add this new interval from G to F, which is a minor 7. This turns G major into a G dominant 7 chord. We have now formed G dominant 7, and this applies to all roots. You can take F major, form a major 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7, and you'll end up with a dominant 7 quality. Okay, so now we have one more chord to form, which is the D minor 7 chord. D, F, A, and C. This one's a bit more tricky than the than the G dominant 7 because we have to lower 2 intervals. What are we going to do? We're going to take a look at the scale. Okay, how do we form D major? D, E, F sharp, half step to G, A, B, and then C sharp. This is the scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. All right. We want to form a minor 3rd. And so if we go from D to the 3rd scale degree, F sharp, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We go to that 3rd scale degree, it's going to be an F sharp. We want to make it an F natural. We want to make it an F natural. So we're going to lower it by a half step to make this a minor 3rd. Okay, we've got that minor 3rd. Let's go to the perfect 5th. We're all good. Let's go to this major 7. Just like the G scale, this is a major 7. It's a 7th scale degree. We want to turn this into a minor 7, and we know how to do that. We lower it by a half step to make it a minor 7. Okay, so the major 3rd of the D major scale becomes a minor 3rd. The perfect 5th remains the same, and then the major 7 of the D major scale becomes a minor 7. And we now have D minor 7. I'll make this point again. If you take any other note on the keyboard, it's like B flat, for example, and you form minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7. the same quality. We have C major, we have D minor 7, and we have G dominant 7. These are the 3 chords that we need in order to play the first 4 measures of Bach's C major prelude. However, we can't play it yet. We could play it, but we need to learn how to invert every single one of those chords. This is probably the trickiest thing. Learning the chords isn't the trickiest concept in my opinion. I think actually inverting them is even more difficult. What are inversions all about? Let's talk about it. Inversions allow us to play each chord in a different position. This is C major. An inversion of C major might look like this. Here's another inversion. Everything about the chord stays the same. Only the order of the notes changes. The quality is the same, the notes are the same. Its function within the piece of music remains the same, although it might change slightly depending on the inversions. Either way, no need to get too deep into that for now. If I take the note C of the C major triad and I drop it and I play it with my left hand, I'm going to take this note and bring it up 1 octave to the next C. This is C first inversion. I've brought the root of the chord and made it the top note while keeping E and G in the same exact position. So what happened? That root flew all the way up here. Here's C, and G, E and G stayed exactly where they were. We went from root position, taking the root, bringing it up, and rearranging the order of the notes of the chord. Okay, we can do that again. We can take E, G, and C. We can take the bottom note, even though it's not the root, we can still take it and bring it up to an octave up and turn it into the top note. This is second inversion, G, C, and E. Let's do this process one last time. G, C, and E. Let's take that 5th and bring it up to the top while keeping C and E exactly where they are. This is root position. If I invert this chord enough, I'll just return exactly to where I started. Each triad has 2 inversions because there's 3 notes. Okay. Now the same exact idea can apply to a chord with more notes in it. We can do the same thing for D minor 7. Here's D, F, A, and C. I don't think I'll write out every single, you know what, I think I will just for this example, but I'll go ahead and skip all the arrows for G dominant 7. So here's D. If I take D and I bring it up an octave while keeping F, A, and C exactly where they are, this is first inversion of D minor 7. Same thing, bring F up, so it's F, A, C, oh, sorry, actually this should start with A, C, D, and F. This is second inversion. Do that same thing again, take that 5, take the A, the 5th, and bring it up to an octave so that the order of the notes changes from C, D, F, A. This is third inversion. Do this one more time and you return to root position. Root position, third inversion, second inversion, first inversion, root. Root, third, 5th, 7. First inversion, third, 5th, 7, root. Second inversion, 5th, 7, root, third. Third inversion, 7, root, third, 5th. Root position, root, third, 5, 1, 3, 5, 7. Same idea for G dominant 7. All right, let's do it. Here's G dominant 7. Take the root, bring it up an octave, so the third is the bottom note, first inversion. Take the third, bring it up an octave, so the 5th is the bottom note. This is second inversion. Take that 5th again, bring it up an octave. This is third inversion, where the 7 is the bottom note. One more time, root position. This is what allows us to be able to interpret certain chords differently from how they might appear. What do I mean by that? If we're playing this prelude, it's pretty clear that this is a C major triad, a C major chord. C, E, G, and I tag C and E to the top, and this one's pretty obvious. But it becomes a little bit foggier when we move to something like this. What is going on here? I've got an A and a D and an F in my right hand. It's not an A, it's not any A chord, it's not root position, because this interval between A and D is too large. This is a perfect fourth, meaning this is an inversion of something else. Any root position chord, all the notes have to be a major or minor third from each other. This means it's not a root position D minor because this interval is too large. But then I have a C here. This is an inversion of D minor 7. That's where these notes come from. In third inversion, because C is the bottom note. Things change. All right, I move to this chord. This is a bit more obvious because G, D, and F form are component notes of the G dominant 7 triad. I've just taken this third, brought it down. And then returned to C major. So that's how these appear and how we can make sense of them. Now, we don't have to stop there, and I don't want to stop there. I'd like to actually explain the relationship between all these notes. So we have built this house. Take a look. We made a solid foundation. Here's like the rocky ground, built all those blocks, so that we have an even foundation. Then here's the house. The house is going to have 3 rooms. We'll do like a room up here. There's a room, and then 2 rooms down here. There's one. All right, so here's a house. Lovely. Now let's turn this into a little story. Let's go on a little adventure. You are in your house. There you are. Oops, whatever. And then you decide to go for a walk to the park and get some fresh air. Now we don't stop there. We go all the way up to a weird part of town. You're not familiar here. You don't really know the streets, the roads, anybody around there. So that's unfamiliar. It's kind of far away. This wants to bring us all the way back home. We want to go back home. Okay, so there are 3 chords that we have in this piece of music. I'd like to apply each chord, or give each of these like little scenes here a chord. C major is home base. D minor 7, or just D minor, is this new area. It's new. Well, it's not new, but it's familiar, but it's close to home. You know your way back. And this unfamiliar part is G7. This is tension. This is dissonance. This wants to be resolved. It wants to bring us back home. Okay, so there are 3 places that we can be. We can be on C, we can be on D minor 7, or we can be on G7. We can be on the tonic chord. We can be on the, I'll write it out, tonic. We can be on the subdominant chord, or predominant. Guess where that wants to go, or it usually goes to the dominant chord. Tonic, subdominant, and dominant. These are the 3 jobs that each of the chords have. How do we see that play out in this prelude? We start on the tonic. I'll scroll up to this little story here. We start here on the tonic, at home, on C. We step outside, go for a walk to D minor 7. Then we move to this, it's like, not unfamiliar sound, but this tension that wants to be resolved by this 7 here, that wants to go down, back to tonic. Here's the dominant function moving back to tonic. Okay. We have the tonic, which tonic generally moves to the subdominant, sorry. And then the subdominant generally moves to the dominant. That returns us all the way back to the tonic. And the order of these will change depending on the piece of music. It's not always cut and dry like this, but this is actually a common pattern that you see all over the place. A 2 chord going to a 5 chord, going to its resolution, a 1 chord. See it all the time. D minor, oh, that looks like a P. Here, D minor 7, going to G7, which then returns to C. So imagine I were to take the C major scale and give each of these a number. We've done that before when we were figuring out the intervals. Okay, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and C is not 8, it's 1 again. So there's only 7 scale degrees. We know that we're working with a D chord, a G chord, and a C chord. Okay, so we're working with a 1 chord, a 2 chord, and a 5 chord. What's the order of the chords here? It goes 1, 2, 5, 1. Although we want to focus on these 3 because this is what you'll see. You'll see a 2 chord, you see a 2 chord, a predominant or subdominant set up the dominant chord, which is the 5, and that will then resolve to a 1, which is C in this case. That's why it's the 2 going to the 5 to the 1. And this works for the non-7 chord, so you could do D minor moving to G, moving to C major. You could turn C major into a 7 chord, C major 7. Here's a 2, 7, here's a 5, 7, here's a 1, 7, major 7. 2 minor 7, I should have been more specific about those, what 7 chord we're talking about here. So 2 minor 7, 5, 7, and then 1 major 7. Although in this case we only see the major triad, not a 7 chord. So you can do 2 minor 7. This is just for the sake of the video. Minor 7, then 5, 7, and then 1. Okay, that's a 2-5-1. That's a 2-5-1 in classical music. You usually see that in jazz, but it's all over the place. And that's sort of the point of the video, is to explain exactly that. I haven't really found many, I haven't found many resources out there that explain this step by step the same way that it's done in jazz music. And classical is my go-to. It's what I enjoy the most. It's what I enjoy playing, and interpreting it and trying to analyze it, digest it beyond the notes that are written is it's difficult. That's why I created the resource that I use to teach my students called Fundamentals. It has every chord, it has every scale and every inversion. All major scales, all natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, and the major pentatonic, the blues scales that has the major quality minor, diminished, augmented, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished, diminished 7. You get the idea. It goes on and on and on for every single root. If you are interested in learning your fundamentals and getting a really solid foundation, check it out. That's what I use to teach all my students. It's what I use to teach online as well and reference on my own. That I think is a perfect next step. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this video could provide value in your piano learning journey. Happy practicing, and again, thank you so much for watching.